Darling, forever I would trade it for your love, your joy forever.
Phone poppy, yeah, she call me Young Poppy. That's my little shawty. She get thicky in the body. She got hottie toddy when she make it wet for me. Got that body on you, girl. You know I wanna play some hide and seek. You're someone that I wanna meet. You're someone that I wanna see. You're someone that I wanna see. And I got every idea in mind to get you poppin'. She said she just wants some liquor, so just stop it. I don't pop no pills or do none of that extra. I be chillin', smoking ganja with my niggas. I got so much, so many dreams, so many things to hold up. So many things on my mind. So many things to let shine.
Welcome back to Unrestricted Free Agent for Season 2. I'm joined here by a real journeyman. As we always say, we're here to empower all athletes, have them share their story, what makes them unique and different, and the journey along the way. So here we have Rasheed Worrell, a person that I got to see play personally in the later parts of his college career and who has journeyed all across the world in his professional career. So as we always say, we'd like to let you introduce yourself, rattle off a few of your stats, and when you get tongue-tied, we have him here.
Yeah. What's going on, everybody? Like you said, my name is Rasheed Worrell. Professional basketball player for the last 4 years overseas. A little bit about me is I started my college career at Bowling Green State University, Division I in Ohio. Before I was in Tuscaloosa, Alabama area at Sipsey Valley High School. Did a little bit at Bowling Green, played for 2 years, redshirted 1 year, transferred to Lynn University. That's where I had my best basketball, I'd say. Lynn University, my senior year, we went to the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament. You know, it feels good. Not too many places you go that you get to really dance and, get on the big stage. So that was a great time for me. Also went into my pro career, got to play in multiple countries so far. A few to mention: Norway, Spain, Kosovo, Chile, Argentina even. So, yeah, been all the way around the world. Got Player of the Year in Spain, so that was a really good accolade also. So now I'm here, man. I'm just ready to share my thoughts with the world.
Yes, sir. So as he said, we always go through and read them because they're more than they like to lead on. So we're going to go through. So as we said, lettered at Simpson Valley High School in Alabama. Led his team to back-to-back 21 seasons over his final 2 years. Second team, 3A All-State selection, senior season. Your team was 22-9. Averaged 14.2, 11.4 rebounds, 3.3 blocks, 2.7 assists, and 1.5 steals as a senior. All-state honorable mention. As a junior, 15 points, 10 rebounds, 53% from the field, blocked more than 100 shots as a junior. And you played for the Alabama Celtics and the Alabama Magic, AAU, which are solid programs. Yeah. So signed early with Appalachian State in November 2013, but then a coaching change happened, flipped Bowling Green. 2014-15, so you sat out as a redshirt your first year. 2015-16, you played in 34 games, 28 starts, 681 minutes on the season, 7 points, 4.6 rebounds. Led the Falcons in blocks, 30 on the season, ranked 13 in the conference, 0.9 blocks per game, 243 points, 155 rebounds, 16 assists, 8 steals on the year. Fourth on the team in field goal percentage, 49.7, 44% from 3, but you shot 9. I always got to caveat that.
Yeah.
Got to make sure they know that. 47 of 80 from the free throw line. First career start in the season opener versus New Orleans. You led Bowling Green in rebounding 7 games of the year and scored in double figures on 11 different games of the season. Career high 16 in a loss to Detroit. 15 3 different times. Career high 11 rebounds in the MAC championship. So then your sophomore year, you logged in 33 minutes. Is that when you got hurt?
My sophomore year, no, not really, man. It's just my role my role changed. At Bowling Green, I came in, like I said, my redshirted my first year.
Yep.
I was recruited by Chris Jans. Actually, he was coming from Wichita State as the associate head coach, which is basically the backup coach, basically the head coach, assistant coach. And he recruited me there. I went there. We had a really good game plan, and then he got in trouble for drunken disorderly conduct during at the end of my redshirt season. Yeah, it was a really big scene. Actually, if you look it up, I'm sure it still comes up, sadly. But yeah, basically his situation went bad, and then he left Bowling Green.
Yep.
So that was interesting for me. So because I fit his system, not everyone was running that traditional four.
Well, I was gonna say, what was his system before I go over your sophomore stats?
Yeah. So his system was using that bigger four and that big man five, and kind of playing within the high-low, or just having a lot of sets to where you could use almost every type of player. Like he had an answer for any type of player he had in the system, and he was going to kind of use you to pick that advantage.
Yep.
Where with Michael Huger was the new coach that came in. I chose to stay because I loved Bowling Green. I really enjoyed my time at Bowling Green. I had good friends at Bowling Green. I had a good situation at Bowling Green. However, the new coach came in, and what he had was the more small ball system with the big, strong five. So the 4-man was now a guard, and 5-man was a center. There was no combo forward mix that really thrived in that system. You could play as a backup or a role player, but the system didn't thrive unless you could really space the floor and attack off the dribble. And that's when, bigger fours, unless you're, like I said, a bigger guard or an undersized big, with a handle, that does, it's not really fit for you if you're not that kind of player. And with me, that wasn't really my style at the time. Now, with that being said, it'd be a little bit different. But now, it's a little bit different. But at the time being, I was young. I couldn't shoot the ball. I was scared to dribble. So it just wasn't. It wasn't the same.
So redshirt sophomore season, played in 31-32 games, 4.4 points, 3.8 rebounds, 0.6 blocks per games, 20 blocks on the season, team high. Log the season high 14 points, 5 boards at South Dakota. So as you just explained, role change, different coach again, which happens, but people don't understand. They just see the production and don't understand why. Where your sophomore season, you should be making a jump. That coaching change completely hindered your game, and it had nothing to do with you. So then, redshirt junior, started 25 of 27 games, third on the team in minutes played, points per game also 10.9, second on the team in field goal percentage 50%, led the team in rebounds 7, blocks per game 1.2, 21-9. This is at Lynn, by the way, if anybody didn't catch it, but I already said it. 21-9 at St. Leo, 25 points. While snagging 7 rebounds with Florida Southern, double-double, 10 points, 12 rebounds at SSC's tournament against Florida Southern. 32 games. Guys were ranked in the country, started all the games, made the Sweet 16 and the national tournament, 8 points per game, 7 rebounds. This is senior year, 66 field goal percentage, 54 from the 3. I know you didn't take that much then neither, but
yeah.
They didn't take that much then neither. But again,
you don't have to include that part.
And talking about kind of, as you alluded to earlier, the different makeup of teams. So again, and people would see those numbers and think, oh, wow, the production was more like freshman year, but you had a completely different role on the Lynn team as opposed to Bowling Green. And even just the complete makeup of that team and how everybody had, which is why you guys were so good, everybody had a specific role. You guys had 2 players averaging more than 15 points per game, but you had 3 double digits, 4 double-digit scores, and that was a complete team. So talk about a little bit the difference and how it led to ultimately your success and even just your happiness on the court.
Yeah, so that team was specifically a fail or an amazing team. Bottom line to it. When I went there my junior year, with 2 years remaining, we had a lot of guys come in that were all from different schools. Yep. And with that being said, like you said, we had a lot of talent. We had a lot of guys who could score. We had a lot of guys who had new roles and, a lot of new attitudes. And the team was good. It was elite. The team was put together very, very specific. You had me, like I said, or like you said, actually, was at Bowling Green in a role where, I was rebounding and scoring, but wasn't really the best fit, also. And we brought in specific shooters and spread the floor point guards like Demo and Brandon Bornelis, really good shooters, who it didn't really matter where they were at on the court, they were a threat. You had Michael Baez as a forward who, once again, is that small ball attack, a big guard. So, you have a piece like that who can also stretch the floor. And then you have me inside. You have Coop also coming in, and who's also really dynamic. He does everything on the floor, and then leads with his energy. You had Jamal Palmer, another 15-point a game scorer. We just had so many pieces that complemented each other. It wasn't anyone trying to force anyone into a system to where it wasn't really meant for them. It was everyone does this, and this is how it complements this guy. And if it wasn't working for maybe a minute or two, because that happens in the games, you sub in another guy who still fits that system almost perfectly. Yeah. And that's the difference. That's why that team was so good. It was dynamic. There were so many threats. It was almost, no matter what you did, we had an answer for our flow not to stop. You couldn't really stop our rhythm in the game if we got going. And that's why we were so good, and it led to us being, a Sweet 16 team.
Yeah, and then going into kind of your pro career, so you started in the NBL in England, the Loughborough Riders, 12 games, 16.3 points per game, 8.8 rebounds per game, 1.2 assists, 1 block, 60% field goal percentage, 58% from the three. 2021, Liga EBA in Spain, can't basket. You go to Tromsø, Norway, 16 points, 10.7 rebounds, 3.7 assists, 50 from the field, 27 from three. Kosovo Super League, and then Porto Varas, Chile, 6.8, 5.9 rebounds, 1.1 blocks. So it's just interesting to see the production in your professional career as opposed to your college career. Because one would say, your freshman year, you were super productive at Bowling Green, even in limited minutes as a freshman coming in. Then it takes a dip, and you find your rhythm again. And then you go to a pro system where they probably play through their big, especially in your first location. You get to expand your game. You have all these experience under you, and you really got to showcase everything you can do. So I know that's such a huge experience, because people always they watch people in college and they're like, oh, they're all right. And they watch them excel and they're almost surprised, but it's like, no, it's just the system wasn't letting him do what he was best at. And I think that's what people need to understand. But first, talk about your experience growing up on the move. As I said, you were born in North Carolina, you grew up in Alabama, went to school in Ohio and then Florida. How much did all that traveling affect you, if any?
Yeah, well, travel has always kind of been a thing for me, really. Growing up in North Carolina was a kind of more of a worse part of my life, more so. Not really as far as just bad things happening, but just wasn't many things happening. You didn't really have opportunity where I'm from in Belhaven, North Carolina. It's really known as just a black hole. Nothing really comes out of it. With that being said, the traveling for me started because I then moved over to Alabama with some other family. And then I had more of a blind side. So you know the movie The Blind Side, right? Yeah. So everyone loves it. I kind of had a similar movie story to that, to where I changed families. And then ever since then, I've been with a white family from Tuscaloosa, Alabama area, which hence why I've been from there for high school, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, on the move, from that age to that age, then taking off over to college in Ohio and all these different places, it really just it teaches you to kind of really adapt, because it was never really easy for me. You're adapting, you're moving, and you're looking for opportunity. And it's just with the basketball side of it, you're adapting, you're moving, and you're expected to put up a standard of points, rebounds, and statistics. So with that being said, in real life, you're moving and you're adapting to survive. And then when you put it together with the basketball side, you're still doing that same thing essentially. But when you get there, you have to now chart. There's someone recording exactly what you're doing, what you're giving out, what you're outputting on the court. So, it's definitely something that I kind of had a little bit of practice with, unfortunately within life, going through struggles and grinds and changes. But it prepared me to do that, going from a country, with different expectations. So they want their power forward to score, 15 points, 10 rebounds a game, and be the best defender, and hustle the most, and make sure you sign these autographs for the kids, win or lose.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's the same thing. You're going off to a different city and with a new school, and you're either lonely or you got to make friends. You got to get good grades. You got to go out there. You got to find a way to make money, to put food, on the plate. So it's all been part of the life pretty consistently up to this point. And I think it's just kind of prepared me in different ways, but in the same way.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then going back, you were signed to Appalachian State first.
Yeah.
Before Bowling Green. So what happened in that situation? I know it was a coach situation, but
yeah,
again, that's a tough pill to swallow because Appalachian might have been your favorite. You might have been sold on them. Mm-hmm. Coach leaves. So talk about that situation a little bit.
Yeah, so going to App State, it was I took a lot of official visits, and App State just happened to be my favorite one. I was going in with Kellen Sampson, which is the duo of Sampson coaches that are at the University of Houston now. Kellen Sampson was the assistant coach who was recruiting me to App State. Everything was great. I went on my visit to Boone, North Carolina. Beautiful mountainous scenery, great school, college town, and great system. They're like, man, you're perfect coming in. Our senior fours graduate, and, you'll come here, we'll feed you, we'll pour this much into you. And what happened is the coaches lost at the end of the season, which is something that's out of your control as a recruit. And then their AD calls them, their athletic director, and they say, "Hey, coach, you're fired. We're looking for a new coach."
Yeah.
And that's a trial that a lot of people don't really understand that players go through. Where you're sitting there and you've already planned out your future. You already chose your academic program. You chose where you're going. Your parents bought their T-shirts for the school, and then the coaches get fired because they lost too many games on the season. A few months, 3 months before you go and sign up for summer school. And that's what happened to me. That's how I ended up at Bowling Green, was because, they got fired. They called me like, "Hey man, I'm sorry to tell you, we're not going to be at Appalachian State. Here's your release. If you want to go play at another school, but you can start now." And that's really it. You go from there. Luckily, I had an unofficial visit with Wichita State before I committed to Appalachian State, where Chris Jans was recruiting me, like I mentioned. And, he brought me in when Wichita State was a powerhouse. On my visit, I was hosted by Ron Baker and
that's dope.
Anthony Irving. Yeah, they had Shaq. I'm on the court with next year NBA guys, In fact, he's always tell a story, afterwards at Bowling Green, how me and Anthony Early got into it while playing open gym. And
really?
Yeah. He tried to post me up on the low block. I'm a scrawny freshman, and I was going for it. I wasn't going for it. So with that being said, now he's a millionaire. And, that's all she wrote.
So then you have another kind of run where you leave, or you decide to leave Bowling Green. And talk about, because again, people always go down to why would you leave a D1 for a D2 and things like that. And again, if you play basketball, you understand. You don't even have to explain it to anybody. But for those who don't understand, what went into that decision? Because obviously you had a pretty good recruiting list coming out of high school. I'm sure you probably had other D1s that you could have transferred to. Yeah. So what was the mindset behind going to Division II, let alone Lynn University?
Yeah, so Lynn University, and I'll say more so the Sunshine State Conference, is not like any other Division II conference.
Yep.
That conference has hoopers, okay? They hoop. They play basketball, and it's competitive. It's highly competitive. Normally, we're playing against FAU. We're playing splitting open gyms with the Florida Atlantic University guys right down the street. So, it's high-level basketball and high-level players. And with that being said, I didn't really feel like I was stepping down in any way going to Lynn University. I felt like what it was just more opportunity. Division I, you have coaches who have systems and they have a very high demand on winning, to which you can either get looked over too fast, more so, or just left behind in the wrong system.
Yeah,
Yeah, Division II is. To be honest, it's less money involved. Division II, so it's less pressure. So guys who maybe didn't have the same opportunity in Division I got overlooked, didn't have the necessary minutes to really evolve their game, get that opportunity in Division II. And when you're going to the Sunshine State Conference among maybe 2 or 3, maybe 4 other conferences in Division II basketball, you're still playing high-level basketball. You're still going to get 6'10", 6'11", big man every day.
Yep.
You're still playing against guards who you don't really have an answer for, but you just got to find a way to play and compete, you know. So that's what led me to Lynn. And also you have beautiful Boca Raton, Florida, South Florida. You know, it's a good time.
When did you go on your visit? What did you do on your visit?
Man, my visit to Boca was, I think, Club Boca at the time. Club Boca.
Oh, the nights in there.
Yeah, man. Club Boca was a good time. I'm pretty sure it had its reign. I think I caught it among the end of this reign, sadly. Club Boca, you know, found my time at the Ave, off the Tiki Bar on Sunday afternoon. You know that.
That's so funny, man.
Good time.
Spots that we find normal. Those are recruiting hot spots. That's when you want to get somebody to get the taste of Florida. That's where you send them. We're like, oh God, I can't go there anymore.
Hey man, I'll tell you what, you had 4 or 5 guys go through an official visit that year, and then they turned around and went to the Sweet 16 the next year. So
there's something about it. I don't know what it was, but it was something about it.
Yeah.
So then you played in 5 different teams in 5 different leagues in your pro career, and some were shorter than others, just due to different circumstances. But talk about the difference in the leagues in terms of like the style of play, the personnel, and the adjustments you have to make as a player, going to completely different locations on different sides of the world.
Yeah, well, for sure, definitely different leagues, different levels, different styles of play. That's a lot of things I tell guys, you know, from home here in the States that are like, hey, man, we see you playing against these guys in this country. They don't look good. You know, it's rec league level. And I'm like, you don't know the style of basketball they play. You know, it's not the same basketball you playing over here in this rec league over here. You know, and you go over there, you might not make it up and down the court, you know. And starting with that, like Chile, for example, which is my most recent trip out. Extremely physical, very, very much low to the ground basketball. Like you go out there, and as an athlete, for me, like I struggled because I go up to dunk. It takes time to dunk, to explode, to get up to the rim. And with my game, that hurts me because by the time you get there, guys are cutting off your legs. Guys are bumping you out of bounds. And you do counter that. Now, I've been in physical places. All you do is you lift more weights, you stay on the ground, and you learn a few tricks to play and play well. But Chile was by far the most physical, I'd say, in that specific area where I'm like, okay, if I'm going to play here, I'm going to put on 10 more pounds while I'm playing in the season.
Yeah,
I'm going to be on whey protein and getting 2 extra lifts and then practice on my drop steps versus putting the ball on the ground, jumping off of 1 foot to take off, because you can't. You can't jump off of 1 foot as a big man, you know. And you go to places like Spain, who's really fast paced and get the ball up the court, you know, run a system, run a fast play every single time, and then take the shot that the coach wants. You know, very systematic, you know, and that's still physical, but it's more skilled, I think, more developed, more know what they're looking for. You have Norway, where you have, you know, good athletes, but it's very young basketball. You know, it's still developing. You know, they have big guys who will go for 20 rebounds in a game. You have a guy who will score 35 points in a game and average 30 on the year, who's, you know, also working his day job at the office, you know what I'm saying, 9 to 5. But it's like you have guys who have mastered their style of play. Norway, if you can get into space and get a jump shot off, you can't be touched. You know, it's simple. So combo guards are going to eat there. Combo forwards are going to eat there if you can be off the dribble. Off the dribble is the game, because the referees protect you and they respect more athleticism. Like if you look me up in Norway, you see I'm up there and I'm playing above the rim, you know, the whole time, because they're calling that foul or they're calling that bump. In a lot of countries, that's just not a foul.
Yes, sir.
So if you're an athlete in the USA, you might not be an athlete.
No, sir. That's what they don't. I tell people that. I'm like, you guys got to understand that the basketball you're watching, it's all dependent on. And what was it? Tyrese Rice, I think he's on the podcast, and he was saying, what's the difference between a $350,000 player and $1 million player contract wise? He was like, it's honestly just the ability to adapt. Like you go into these different clubs that the style of play is completely different, and what they need from you is completely different. as a scoring point guard, like you said, in Norway, that might be my time.
Yeah.
But then I might go to South America where they just want me to pass, first play defense, and shoot the open three.
Exactly.
And you might look at my numbers and it's take a hit, but it's not because I got worse.
Yeah.
It's because that's how the league is played. And so the best players are the ones who can adjust. I think people don't understand that. They look at it through like a jaded lens, and they're looking at it like, oh, like, well, like you said, look at the players like, oh, look at that. And they're like, oh, okay. Like,
well, the problem is you look at it as if you know,
exactly.
And you don't know until you've been.
Exactly.
That's the thing. It's nothing's the same. Every country's different. Distances are real. People play their style of basketball. And every country I've been to, I can always say that it was a completely different style. Yeah. Whether you have to adapt, whether you dominate, whether you give a lot, and it's not on the statistics, But the coach will say he loves you. He loves that game. You had 5 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 blocks. That's the game you ever played.
Exactly. Yeah.
You have 20 points. You have 20 points. To 5 or 6 from the field, 2 threes. He's like, man, you're shooting too much. And then it's like the veteran big on the team didn't get his shots, and now you're going home because you just didn't get it.
That's real.
So, and that's really how it is. It's different scenarios and different things that you just got to kind of adapt to.
Yeah. And then I always told people when you graduated, and I was like, I said it when you graduated, and even more so as you were playing, I was like, when you were at Lynn, I was like, he's going to be a way better pro than he is a college player. Yeah. And then as you started playing, I was telling people, I was like, I told you he's a way better pro than he was college player. But talk about, as we just kind of did, the difference between playing a role on the team and being the focal point in an offense. And I already mentioned before, like what Lynn needed you to do is probably different from what Tromsø needed you to do in Norway, different from what Chile needed you to do. And just how that, again, as we talked about, like the mental aspect of it, to know that I might be in this league to just rebound the ball. But for me to play my contract and be worth my money, like I have to be the best rebounder I can be. Doesn't matter what else I can do.
Exactly. Yeah. So like from Lynn, for example, I said that was a project that was put together for 2 years. Yep. So by the time we came around to having our roles figured out, I mean, don't get me wrong, I scored the ball at Lynn, but I didn't score a lot. And that's because we had guys who we expected to shoot. We had guys who we expected to take 10 shots, who needed 10 shots to be the most productive all the way around the court. And then, when you go pro, and they sign an American specifically, not just any player, an American, you're expected to be a really good scorer, a really good rebounder, a really good defender, if not the best on your team, and that is a standard, that's a minimum standard. And Lynn, it was more so I was able to not necessarily avoid shooting, but I didn't have to depend on scoring the ball. I didn't have to feel like I had to come in and make sure that I was going to have 15 points. And I didn't look for 15 points, I looked for right-hand hooks around the guy. That's it. There was nothing else. There was nothing else that, in my view, that was necessary for me on the offensive end, really. And then you go to places like England and Argentina, like my first trips out. And I mean, Norway, like you said, Norway was my highest average, I think 16.3, 16.4 points a game. And, there, if you don't shoot that wide open 3, they're going to pass it to somebody and they may miss that 3. And now your team's down 3 and the other team's going to pass it to their guy who's going to make that 3. Yep. And now you're missing opportunities because you're making a bad decision for your team. You need to be prepared to make that shot and not expect other guys to make that shot. That's the bottom line to it. I expected other guys to make those shots. I expected Jamal and Mike and Brandon and, all these other guys to get their 15, their 12 points a game. And I could just go and hustle my way to my 10. Where overseas you go, and if you don't take those 5 or 6 shots, you don't go and create that play, your team's losing every game. Not just one game because they're losing every game, because you have to. There's a standard that you have to fill. And that's the difference.
What did your coach tell you? Like, what did he impress upon you at Tromsø? Like, I know some coaches who literally would go into the locker room and say, hey, like, you need to shoot. You need to shoot minimum 16 shots, or you need 20 points minimum. Like, and it's clear cut. Like, there's no confusion. There's no in front of everybody too. Like, it's not even a secret. Like,
I won't use Tromso for example because I had a very loving coach and I had loving teammates who knew that this guy had to put up this and that, and they didn't have to say that. It was okay, like you know better.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
the first lesson I got on you have to score the ball was when I went to Argentina, and we're playing our our little warm-up games coming into our summer tournaments, and we're playing, and I think I'm playing great. I think I had maybe 17 points, 8 rebounds in one of our preseason games, and I'm playing great. Everyone slapped up. The team won, and the coach is giving me a ride back to the apartment. And I'm like, hey, coach, did you see this pass that I threw to one of the guards? It was like I pushed it up coast to coast, hit it in and out with my left, more than likely as usual, and then crossed over and went to the corner. Got boom, bucket. And I'm bragging to the coach, and he goes, hey, Rasheed, his name was Coach Enrique. He's like, Rasheed, you very good pass, but we don't need. You score more. Score. That's it. That was it. And from that point on, there was no confusion. It was all right. I need to get in the gym. Because he said a no-look pass to a wide-open guy in the corner knocking down a three was not needed.
No good.
No good. No good. This is not the correct play coming from a head coach. And at that point, I said, okay, this is in between pro and college. That's pro and college. And then you still have to be good at all those other things. You still have to be the market guy, the guy who the fans love and the people want to see. And you still have to be the guy who's going to out-hustle, out-rebound, and defend the other Americans that have that same mindset as you that are on those other teams. That's the difference.
So then I always talk about this as well. There's a stigma in basketball that as a big man, you have to be less skilled than a guard in other positions. And then there's also the stigma that most big men want to be guards and they want to showcase the offensive. And it's always all levels. In the NBA, it's every big man has an off-season workout tape where they're in the gym. And to basketball players, they're just fine-tuning things that you never know if they need. But to other people, it's like, oh, my gosh, this man just wants more offensive freedom, this and this. He wants to showcase he can do it. So first, talk about the stigma that bigs have to be less skilled than guards. And then how do you feel about the bigs wanting to be guards as well?
It's absolutely not true. I'll say big men have to be more skilled than guards. I'll say that, but I'm a little bit biased because I am a big.
Obviously.
What I can say is I think that the big man role is overlooked and very much not understood. Because as a big man, a lot of time you have to be in the best shape as well. You have to be able to go rim to rim. You have to attack both boards, offensively and defensively. And you still have to be able to help the guards in most pressure or systematic situations. So you have to be able to pass. You have to be able to bounce pass, overhead pass, lob pass, et cetera. You still have to be able to attack and put the ball on the floor and be able to score. And in today's game, specifically at all 3 levels. I think before that stereotype, where bigs didn't have to be as skilled was more true in the older era of basketball, where you can sit under the basket and just throw hooks. You can pick and roll and there might not be an answer. But now there's guys who pick and pop, like that 4 and 5 is picking and popping and handoffing and then cutting and setting a down screen for a guard to make sure he has the best angle to shoot a 3, while still knowing that he has to slip to the basket for an alley-oop if it's an option. Guards have to know that these are options, but you don't have to execute all of those. You have to make sure we all know where they're at and where we need to be. And that's just my take on it. But I hope that makes sense.
No, to a basketball person, of course it makes sense. Yeah. But to the average person, it don't gotta make sense to them because that's the truth of it. Yeah. I still partially disagree. Because I emphasize the reading part of the game more than that from the ball handler perspective. And I do think that, I can only speak from a point guard perspective, just because of the role of knowing all 5 positions and being able to run all 5 positions and being the de facto when things go bad, breaking it up. But I do think that bigs are underrated in skill development. And I think that's why good bigs are always head and shoulders above everyone else. And it's very, very obvious. And I do think the style of play is kind of going into that, where back and forth, Clint Capella would have been the prototypical big by just rim run, block shots. You might get 1 or 2 touches on the block. You might. And now you got an Embiid who knows how to do everything that a guard can do. Yeah. in a big's body, and he's rebounding, and he's blocking shots, and he has to run the floor, and he's a defensive anchor, and he's doing all these things. So I definitely think people who understand are understanding, or people who know basketball are now understanding that. And as you said, he's catching from the pinch post, and he's making those reads now. So before, outside of the high pick and roll with him and Harden, he's making the reads at the pinch post. So he might go to the handoff, he might slip, he might take the handoff, slip, and pop, and he's on the ISO, but there's still a backdoor action that he has to make the pass to. So I definitely agree with that. And then the thought that bigs want to be guards. And I know your teammates used to laugh at you because every time you would dribble the ball more than 3 times on the break, they would yell at you, pass! And say, dang, she always trying to be a guard. She always trying to bring the ball up. So what say you to that? Do you agree or do you think they just be hating?
I think that especially growing and learning who you are as a player, that may be true. That might be true. I can say I've been being yelled at to give up the ball before I take off on a break since I was 6 and 7. It's not new at 17, and it's not new at 21 or 26. I think every big feels restrained early on. I think that's the difference. Is if you feel restrained when you're learning and having to play that big man spot to where you have these little limits. You just don't have the basketball. Every kid when you first start playing wants to have the ball. You don't learn that right off the bat. You that's wisdom with the game, with time. So with that being said, I think every big loves for their time to shine, to be able to show what they can do in the open floor and to handle the basketball. And then also, I wasn't allowed to most of my career by my teammates or my coaches, but it also showed that having the ability to change and open up a lot of areas in my game while being a pro. Because I had a lot of coaches telling me at Bowling Green and at Lynn, you don't dribble, you dunk the ball, throw that right hook, throw that left hook. Yes. But then when I became a pro, and it's okay, not score in this specific way, score. And then it was
they don't care how you get it. Yeah.
Exactly. Now you need your handle. Now you got to be able to put the ball on the floor and be able to pump fake, drive, pump fake, sweep, stop and shoot a pull up. So I think, yes, it's true that every big wants to be a guard, but I think it's warranted and I think it's necessary. That's my answer.
So next, going into financial literacy, a big topic, just kind of talking about how you navigate that, because it's very hard for a college student to go into being directly a professional, and nobody's first contract is usually nothing to complain about or nothing to really rave about. But talk about how you kind of manage your money and how you had to learn to manage your money. And the same way, how do you, in those periods where you don't have a contract in the summer, how do you continue to manage your money and your finances and make sure that you're still kind of comfortable in your lifestyle outside of playing basketball?
Well, excuse me. Managing money, as far as when you're playing overseas, is not as hard as it seems. Unless
about the contracts.
Exactly.
Yes, sir.
It's about the contract. Whatever contract you may have, it can be anywhere from, like I said, when I went to England, I was there for 400 pounds and an academic scholarship. Now, an academic scholarship is worth a lot of money. So, it's negotiable, but $400, pounds, anything is not a lot on a month. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, my lifestyle was treated very differently there. You're not going to be out partying, traveling, exploring necessarily. You're going to eat on a budget. You're going to live on a budget and then focus on your job because that's what is deemed necessary at the time. Now, as far as every contract goes, if you're making a lot of money, then hey, man, kudos to you. Go enjoy yourself when you have some free time. That's part of it, is the experience and going out and traveling and seeing the world. But if you want to save every time, then it was more so, I'd say, balancing your diet when you're eating overseas. Meal prep. Know where your meals are coming from, because a lot of time when you're overseas, they're covering your house and you do have meals covered. So if you're not overeating, overdoing it, unnecessary things, drinking, and all these kind of things, then you can pretty much put away the money that you're getting while there. So because your living expenses are cut down more than half. So I think if you can meal prep and kind of stay on top of that, along with don't party as much, then you're good when you're overseas. Because you sit on it and then you got all your bread just waiting for you at the end. Now, when you go home and you're starting in that transition period, you go home, the United States is more expensive, so it's a little bit more tricky. You got to pay for that phone bill that you're not paying for overseas because you got your Wi-Fi turned on and you have your data turned off. You got to pay for that housing, whether you're, some guys are grown men, they're paying for an Airbnb or an apartment for 3 or 4 months, and then they go back out and make their money. Some guys have girlfriends, some guys are staying with their family, et cetera, paying a friend. Who knows the situation? But when you come home, you got to basically put a set limit on how much you're going to spend from that money that you already made. And you got to say, okay, these are my plans for this few months. This is the gym membership I need, okay, to stay in shape. This is the money for my gas. This is the car insurance I got to now pay for because I'm home, because I'm using my car again, And you got to just kind of keep that in the back of your mind is like, okay, these are my limits while I'm here. I only have a few months here. And if, I'm going off and I'm working my ass off while I'm overseas playing basketball, so I can chill and relax when I'm home before I get back to the grind of prepping, So as long as you have a clear focus on, okay, this is what I have, this is how much time I have, and I'm going to not overdo it. I'm not going to get caught up in some fake lifestyle for 2 months and burn this time and money, then you're good, But if you kind of waver in that kind of focus and commitment, then it's going to always be a kind of shaky summer or shaky off season until you get that next job. Because you don't really predict the market. Markets can go down and they can go up. You can say, I have this, and then you didn't stick to your limit, and then you come out and the contracts in the countries that you were expecting have now dropped $500, $600 a month.
Sir.
And you're thinking you were good because you knew the market, and the market just changed just because, and now you're down money. Now you're missing bills, or you don't have a way to pay bills.
Exactly. And that's the biggest thing. I hope people that do go and play understand, because I feel like, and even for those who are making those high-level contracts, I feel like there's such a status that comes with it, and we're a very materialistic society, which is nothing wrong with that. But making sure, especially as us, making sure that we're saving, that we're starting to prioritize. As we get older, man, like, that lifestyle is cool and all, but I always say after a certain age, like, you got to start saving in some assets, bro. Like, you got to have something for yourself to win that ball started, but you're not starting from scratch. Like, there's nothing that you can't, build off of. Whether it's just having a large savings account, a high interest savings account, but it's little things that they can do to kind of get ahead. And then moving on to the next topic, I know you said you're going to take a little break from basketball for a little bit, which could just be an in-between contract kind of thing. But what prompted you to kind of take the break? What does it mean for your personal development and your mental?
Yeah. So me personally, my break is definitely mental. It's not physical. When I am in the off season, when I am at home, I tend to be pretty consistent with training, lifting, being more of on the healthier side as far as, just staying active. So this one is more for me because I feel like I've had more of the harder trials, if you will, for most of my trips out playing overseas, whether it be financially or not having the best success on the court, or just maybe just needing a break because, guys like me, for example, like I've hopped around from Ohio to Florida, from North Carolina to Alabama. Yeah, it's been a grind since I started playing basketball. So it's like I've never really taken a year to just live, relax, take care of those nagging injuries that you get every season that you play on top of, take care of the feet and the ankles, get to the weight that I feel like I want to compete at, that I noticed 3 seasons ago, but didn't have time to really make the weight cut or make the weight gain yet. So it's more like I have some fogginess that I want to get really cleared through with me and myself as far as a player before I go back out and show myself as a professional athlete. And that's my take on it for me.
But it takes a lot of awareness to get to that point, and I think I'm happy for you for real for doing that, because again, some people will push through and then they get burned out. And that's even worse. Mm-hmm. And everybody should be able to sit and have a real conversation with themselves, with their output, the work they're putting in, the results they're seeing, and just the overall situation. So kudos to you for that. And I think a lot more players should have that self-awareness or have that depth with themselves to be able to analyze the situation for what it's worth, as opposed to, man, I just want this so bad, I'm willing to do anything and take bad contracts and put themselves in almost a hole just to do it. And it's like, it's not worth it. In the long run, it's definitely not worth it.
Exactly. And it took time to get there. You know, that's what I've done for most of my career so far or not really, I say just the beginning of my career. You know, I took bad contracts to get started, and in turn that hurt my career. You know, because, you know, I'd say like I'll tell everyone after me that's going into, you know, the overseas basketball game is, you know, after your college year, I mean, during college really even, but your first 3 years as a pro is the most important years of your career. Because you can get to that standard that you come from. You know, your foundation level is how you do as a rookie. This is the money level that you're at. This is the standard of player that you're at. And then you go from there, you can only excel. You can only go up from there. Now, if you start off in a level that's lower than you and you play good, you did great as far as what you were expected to do for your personal standard, but no one around you cares because they don't understand the level that you're at. Why is he at that level? Who are the guys that he's on the court with? He looks like that only because of them, and it takes the attention off of you, what you're doing, what work you put in, you know. So with that being said, like it's nail on the head. You know, if you go out and you're taking bad contracts, then you can break your career. I've always been a high level player. I felt like, and I've put in the work as a high level player. I've performed like a high level player, but I did it at low levels. I can do it at high levels all I want at home in the USA with all the high level guys that I want, you know, in the gyms that I'm going to play them at. And those guys are going to be making their money when they go overseas. But if you go and play in a bad contract at a level that you're not supposed to be in, then you're never going to get the jump that you need. You know, and that's kind of where I kind of got stuck in between that, where you're kind of make people respect and take that notice of the level that you play at. But because you have so many gray leagues that it kind of, you know, creates kind of a more of a counterbalance, you know, if you will, you know. Yeah.
Going into the Family Feud portion of the clip where we surveyed 100 hoopers, asked them their opinion on things. I just need to know, the first question is personal. Who's the coldest hooper you ever played against, and how much did they give you?
Devin Booker in high school age.
You're the second person in a row who said Devin Booker. That's crazy. Carry on.
Man, Devin Booker, I played against him when he was with the Alabama Challenge, the EYBL team in Montgomery, Alabama, and it was my first time moving up to the 3 from the 5 spot.
Oh shoot!
Yeah, and you know, because the EYBL guys are big. You know, they're just as big as my Celtics team, which was another big team in Alabama. You know, we had 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", 6'11". You know, a challenge, they got 6'9", 6'11", 6'10", 7 foot. And I went out there at the 3. Devin Booker's out there. I don't even know who the guy is. They said he's this guy from Mississippi. He has a bunch of offers from Kentucky and all this other stuff. And next thing you know, I looked up after about the third quarter and the guy had 30. And I ain't been back to the 3 since then. I came back to the post and I said, you know what? I'm good here, you know. So yeah, man, that guy's cold. You know, he shoots the ball well. If you slack off, it's a bucket. Yeah, and he's athletic. You know, he's not crazy athletic, but he's athletic enough and smart enough that he punishes you for every mistake. So if you don't know what you're doing and you're not guarding and you're not on your P's and Q's, man, it's a walking 30-piece. And he gave me one for sure.
So what's the hardest position to guard from the big man spot, in your opinion?
I mean, I wouldn't even say it's position, especially me being more of a, I've had I like to say I'm a defensive player with scoring ability, with a lot of ability. But I'd say it's more the player that you have to guard versus the player that you are. You know, like for me, I love when a team attacks me as an undersized big and says, we're going to put this big man who wants to drop step and throw hook shots, you know, because most people don't know that I'm also really strong to be undersized. So that guy who only can throw hook shots, he can't take bumps. He can't handle contact when you get him away from the block. And now it's easy to guard because I don't have to chase from left to right. It's just contact. It's just physicality. Now, you put me up against someone who wants to dribble and, you know, take 13 or 14 dribbles at the three-point line before driving and stopping and changing speed again. See, that'll always give me a problem because it's a lot of guessing, you know. It's a lot of guessing. And that's when guards are more skilled and more able to handle that because they're just more quick thinkers. They understand everything. They already have everything in their mind.
Yeah.
Bigs, we can handle that physicality, that intensity. That's more where I thrive at. So I wanted to say it's the position. I'll say it's the player, you know.
So then going on to that, if you had to tell a coach how to utilize you in an offense, what would you describe? What actions would it be? So tell a coach how to perfectly use you.
Yeah. So me, I'm really explosive, but I did manage to stretch my game and get to where I can attack off of space. So I'm used really good being the key guy in the pick and roll action, pick and roll and pick and pop action, you know. And then you also have me where I'm a tween forward. So like the skills I was missing in college was shooting the ball with intent. Shooting the ball to make shots or catching the ball away from the basket with intent to score, you know? And now with that being said, you know, when you're using me in actions, I'm an undersized 5, but I can guard that big 5, you know? So I can move, I can be the pick and roll guy to go and catch that lob or to catch it in the middle of the paint and explode. Or I can catch the ball from the pick and pop and knock down that 3, knock down that mid-range, catch it and rip and attack because I'm mobile. I'm a mobile, athletic combo forward. Versus a traditional 5 versus a stretch 5, you know? So I kind of give you best of both worlds, inside and outside, as long as you're using me in key actions where you have to worry about me. You know, you can't just leave me on the court. That's when it gets kind of tricky when you have a kind of combo athletic forward because you got to kind of keep them active. You know what I mean? And that's the trick to using those guys versus using more traditional set system guys.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So then, and this is in your opinion, how do you view basketball as a financially sustainable option for longevity-wise? So how do you view it in terms of, again, and you talked about kind of your contract situation before and stuff like that, but so for everybody else and the average person, how financially sustainable is overseas basketball in your opinion?
Overseas basketball is based on your personal life. You know, it's financially stable if your life allows it. Like for me, I said I was able to live with family, and that made it really easy for me to leave home. You know, now if you're leaving home, and you have a wife and kids, then you know you got to have some money already set. You know, you can't leave to go make your money. You know, if you go out and you sign a good contract and you don't spend money and you're not losing on bills for 8 months, you're now 8 months of money ahead. So think about in the USA, if you didn't have to pay rent, a car payment.
Exactly.
A phone bill for a month, and you just settle and you just pay for only your food for 8 months out the year, and then you sit there and you look down. Okay, you might have at least 8,000. Someone, you know, minimum wage, you're at least going to make 1,000 a month. So you sitting on 8,000, you can plan out a little bit. You can live in advance. You can say, I'm going to be okay in a month from now because I'm not going to spend 8,000 of my dollars. You know, it's very simple like that. But if you if you're just looking and you're living kind of spending, you know, 2,000 when you're only making 1,800, then you're not going to make it. You know, you got to budget. You got to have an IQ about it.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of discrepancy. I think there's a lot floating around about athletes and people, and I think it all boils down to just living above your means. But we live in a consumerism kind of place. But I think a lot of people have argued with the financial sustainability of overseas basketball, but then you see the ex-NBA players who can go and command 1.5 for a contract in League One in Europe. You have some high level players who 350 easily. And then they don't understand, one, how much the clubs are making, how much money is flowing through maybe 5 guys, and the rest of people are not getting that kind of money.
Yeah.
And so I think it's such a very intricate situation that you have to understand and know your place of it all.
Yeah.
Because as you said, if your career, you've got a low level contracts, you're trying to move up to that next bracket, your financial situation is going to look a lot different than somebody who's only had high level contracts. And now I can take a contract where I'm probably overpaid for what my production is, but they don't need me to do that based on my resume. Yeah. And so the financial situation is always tricky. But I think it boils down to, as you said, your situation going back home plays a large part in it. And that's the part that I don't think people account for, to where, what does my off season look like?
Yeah.
Some people who stay in the same country and they're still not paying bills.
Yeah.
And they just stay there for the summer or for the off season and wait for the next contract. They might travel there, but
just
their output is very low as opposed to coming back home. And like you said, picking up where you left off with bills and getting an Airbnb for this month, paying for training, paying for you know what I'm saying? And so I always tell people, like, it's not just about the contract that you're seeing. There's so much stuff that you have to factor in. And so if you just don't want to work and just play basketball and have your off season to yourself for the rest of your career, whatever you want to do is on you. I mean, the options are all there, but I think people see the money and they think, oh, there's no way people can live off of that. And then other people see the large money and they're like, oh wow, like seems pretty easy, but it's really not.
Well, I mean, it's not easy to make it, but I mean, a lot of people also don't realize that the job of overseas basketball is a lot harder than a lot of the normal everyday jobs as well. So, you know, running, getting up, training, being away from friends and family, having to learn a new food, adapt to a new culture, not speak your base language, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It can be a lot harder than, you know, working an office job where you just need to have a basic IQ of working with people from 8 to 5, 9 to 5. So what you do is you go over there and, you know, you go in and you make that money, and then you can still fall back and still do a normal job when you're at home. You know, so it's like the money doesn't have to go completely to zero, but you go out and you try to make as much money as possible from the basketball side as you can in order to stabilize the rest of it.
Exactly.
You know? And if you kind of get those kind of confused and mixed in, then you're going to be in for some trouble. But you kind of got to get it to stabilize it, not get it to just live off. You know, that can't be it, you know.
But once again, man, I appreciate you coming on with us. Wish you the best of luck in your journey moving forward. Please let me know any way I can help, anything that you need. We want to thank also the viewers and everybody who tuned in. Once again, follow the socials, unrestrictedFA_pod on Instagram, unrestrictedFA1 on Twitter. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We always ask you to leave. Oh, I almost forgot. I always wear somebody's brand or a clothing brand that from a local person or somebody I know. And this is my friend from Be the Village. He has the bright hoodie, actually a kind of code thing for my mom's nonprofit and his clothing brand. So please check that out. I'll put the link and everything. But we always ask the player to leave the public and the people with some advice or anything that they can say for the next generation or people who are trying to play or get to the level that they're at. So learning from your mistakes. So anything you want to leave the people with?
Yeah, man, it's about how you start, you know, make the most out of your early years, you know, and work just as hard as you would, you know, like it was your first tryout at a basketball team in high school, you know, but start off strong early and just keep your head down and grind, and then don't get stuck in it, you know, be versatile and be adaptable.
And then the last thing that I didn't even bring up, but I forgot, your kind of history with agents, because I feel like that's a disconnect that players struggle with coming out. What was your agent situation like coming out, and how did it change, and how did you have to learn and grow through that? Because that'll help the next generation also.
Well, like I said, the early years, agent is just as important as you being in the gym. You know, agent is the lifeline that you have to make your money and to make your early contracts matter. You know, the name matters. So clubs a lot of time don't look at the player; they look at who your agent is, what name, what status does your agent bring. And yeah, you want to find that guy. Me personally, coming from D2, you know, it kind of hurts a little bit because agents know Division I name gets you in overseas. Division II brings a question mark. And that's one of the things that I do kind of, you know, think about you know, on a regular basis or used to on a regular basis was if I stayed Division I to Division I, would that have changed from that matter? But yeah, Division II changes things, Division I does. And the agent knowing the specific countries that you need to be in, Spain, France, Germany, you know, those specific places matters versus any agent who knows everybody anywhere, you know, because that's not really building you your profile overseas. It's just a guy who knows people, you know. So yeah, the agent matters. Mine, I went and I found my own agent just looking through Facebook, guys. You know, if you're hungry and you're just willing to work with anyone, then hey man, you got to get it how you live. You know, that's what I was on at the time. I had agents reaching out, but I wanted to find a guy, and my guy turned out to be okay, but not the best. Some of them are worse than others, you know, but there's not many great ones, but some are definitely better than others. But if you can find one that's, you know, has a good level, a good base standard, good base profile, already respected, then, you know, if you can build them that trust relationship with them, then you need to just kind of build that just as if you would any relationship at home, you know, that you want to really work. And if that's the case, then, man, you should be well taken care of.
That's big. That's important. Appreciate you, the people. Once again, wish you the best of luck, Sheed. Appreciate you. I can't say I'll visit you in Pensacola, but please come back south anytime. Hang out with us on the sunny coast.
Soon, man.
Signing
I got
off.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Signing off. Have a good night.